Hey everybody, welcome to our weekly call here. Matt Ham with Red Earth Team as part of our initiative to provide some encouragement, some education, some inspiration to the team across the country, also at our individual communities. You can catch all of this on our YouTube channel if you're not subscribed, but I encourage you to do that. We've got an archive of content there that's fantastic. Right now we are working through and walking through John Maxwell's Laws of Teamwork. We are on law number 11, and that is the law of the scoreboard. I find it very apropos that today's video falls on June 1st. It's June 1st, 2021 when we're recording this. June 1st is a massive date for me in my life. June 1st was when I left my corporate career 3 years ago to pursue this organization, Uprint, to become pursue my heart and passion for speaking, for helping individuals, for employee development, all the work that we do at Uprint. And so it's always a marker for me, but it was always a marker for me in the insurance world because it is that middle point, right? You're starting the 6th month, so it's not, I know technically July 1st is the second half of the year, but I always liked June 1st better because it said, hey, I've got 1 month until I finish the first half of the year, and I always made my adjustments at June 1 rather than July 1. And there's a lot of reasons for that because the summer is busy enough as it is. And if you wait until July 1st to make your adjustments, it's probably August before you get them in play. And then you've got, wrapping up the summer, kids back to school, and it can delay the process. So I like to be a little bit ahead. I'm a weirdo, and I encourage you to be weird with me. I always do my kickoff planning for the year in December 1st. And I always did my mid-year assessment at June 1st. Just it gives you a little bit of padding there to make sure that you are clicking on all cylinders when the actual when the bell dings, and we're heading out. So today's very appropriate, the law of the scoreboard. This is one of those things that if you've been around sales any length of time, the law of the scoreboard is a very common thing. For those of you a part of Red Earth, for John Pinter, the scoreboard is a massive part of the culture here at Red Earth. I know that individual communities as well as the company corporately has an active scoreboard. John shows me these scoreboards from time to time. This is the marker of how we navigate our success and failure as a team as we step forward into this. And so the scoreboard is, like I said, it's one of these cliche things. We know about it. Maxwell approaches it with 5 reasons why the scoreboard matters. 5 reasons why the scoreboard matters. But I want to kick it off and to say something else is, regardless about what the scoreboard says, underneath the scoreboard is always the heart. That's where I stand. Scoreboard matters, but the heart matters more to me. And we had a baseball game last night, and our team was losing 7-1. We can only score 5 runs an inning. And they said, do you want to go ahead and call it a day? And I said, heck no. If you cancel this game or you call it short, I'm going to be furious. I said, because if we can play, then we're going to play. They said, yeah, but you can't win. I said, I don't care. It's about character and it's about heart, because these kids are going to get out there and they're going to still play, and I'm going to encourage them to give absolutely everything they have regardless of what the scoreboard says, right? So I am a scoreboard fan, and we're going to talk about the importance of the scoreboard, but I want to let you know that if your heart's not in it, regardless, that you've already failed. Because listen, you can win the game with a bad heart and you're a failure in my book. But you can lose the game and have a great heart about you, and I still see that as a success. So this is Matt's caveat to this law of the scoreboard, which I think if left out, it's a mistake and we miss an opportunity. So there's a little bit of a caveat with the law of the scoreboard. Now that being said, scoreboard matters. When we're playing sports, we have a scoreboard, right? I am not a fan of everybody gets a trophy. Right? If we're playing sports, we're playing to compete, we're playing to win. If we weren't, then we wouldn't keep score and nobody would care. Right? I love an analogy that Maxwell uses. If you go bowling, people say, oh, I just go bowling because of the camaraderie and all that kind of stuff. He said, well, take away the pins and roll the big ball all the way down the lane into nothing and see how much you enjoy bowling. He said that bowling and any type of activity is always brought to life because there is an element of success or failure, winning or losing, and that is an essential component of our careers as salespeople as well. If you don't have that competitive spirit in you, if you don't have that winning or losing, if you don't have that idea of let's get together as a team and accomplish this, then you need to go do another career. That's just the very short of it. I don't mean to be crass or cold, but, if you are not interested in winning or losing, you don't have that competitive edge, then you need to go find another career. And you can work on an assembly line, or you can work at fast food, or you can just go paint pictures, or whatever it is that you want to do. The reason why you want to be in sales, the reason why you want to dive into this is because you've got that thing in you that wants to win, that wants to be successful, that wants to be competitive. And it is a good thing. It has to be gauged, it has to be measured, and it can't be, like I said, without heart or other purpose around it. But that's the thing that keeps you ticking, and that's why you're in the seat that you're in. So Maxwell says there's 5 things about the scoreboard that are important. Number 1, he says the scoreboard is what provides understanding. If you ever go to a ball game, regardless if it's football, basketball, baseball, if you show up in the middle of the game, the first thing you do is you look at the scoreboard, or you ask someone, what's the score? If you turn on the television and you're in the middle of a game, the first thing you do is you look and you say, what's the score? So the scoreboard is essential at understanding where you are, right, in the game, what the score is. And so it's information. It provides information for us to understand. That's why it matters. If we jumped into any community that is represented on the call here or represented from those who are watching, if we said, what's the score? Where do you stand in your annual goal of sales versus where you are? If you set out to sell 40 and you've sold 10 and we're on June 1st, then we are off pace, right? If you set out to sell 40 and you've sold 35 and we are at June 1st, you are ahead of pace, okay? So the scoreboard is the essential tool for us to understand where we are. Where we are. When you go up to a ball game and somebody says, hey, what's the score? And you go, well, the pitcher's just had a tough time. I mean, he just hasn't been throwing strikes. And, they're not interested in that. They're saying, what's the score? They're not looking for an excuse. They're not looking for an explanation. They're looking for a concrete reality. So the scoreboard is always the indicator of reality. You can have bad traffic. You can have low inventory. You can have a pandemic. You can have, illness or whatever. It doesn't negate what's the score. So we like to justify the scoreboard by all of these other things, when in reality, the scoreboard is the marker for where we stand. You can never forget that. Never forget that. We like to justify the score instead of just saying, where are we? And that leads us to the second point here. It says that the scoreboard is what provides the ability for us to evaluate things. Because it provides a concrete score, a concrete reality, now we can begin to evaluate things. Now, this is the interesting piece of, like, if you look at a scoreboard, it's not necessarily just about the score. It's, hey, what is the count on the batter? Well, it's a full count on the batter. There's 2 outs. The bases are loaded. It's the bottom of the 9th. Oh, okay. Now we're taking on a different picture. It's not just 3-2. It's 3-2 with the bases loaded, full count in the bottom of the 9th. Well, what do we evaluate from that? We evaluate that this is an intense moment. Well, who's at the plate? Well, the star player's at the plate. The star player's on the mound. Oh, okay. This is an epic moment. So you can start to evaluate things from the scoreboard rather than just say, oh, well, it's 3-2. The evaluation piece is going to allow you to assess information about the game beyond the score. Okay, so for example, in your world, oh, we've got 10 sales this month. Awesome. Well, the average sale price is $150,000, so we're at a volume of 1.5 million. Well, the other person has 1 sale for 1.5 million. So it's 10-1 on the scoreboard, but when you look at the revenue or the sales volume, it's exactly the same. So the scoreboard is key to evaluating. And in you guys' case, I remember when I sold insurance, it wasn't just about how many policies you sold, it was about the volume that you sold as well. So there's a scoreboard that gives us metrics beyond just the number of sales. Volume matters. I remember another thing when the insurance world is households, right? We might go to one house and sell 5 policies, whereas one guy went to 5 houses and sold 1 policy. The guy who's got 5 relationships rather than 1 is already ahead of the guy who just has 1. So think of it this way. If you have a lot of repeat customers and stuff like that, that's fine. It's a little different in y'all's world because you don't have frequent buyers. It's, buy a house and then maybe, 3 to 5 years they could consider buying another one. But think about this: are you churning over volume? Are you getting new clients in the door? The scoreboard should show you, if you keep track of how many appointments you have, how many tours you take, that's part of the scoreboard as well. It's going to show me how many people you are meeting. And if you've got 50 appointments and you've sold 5 houses, that means your closing ratio is 10%. Versus the person who's taken 50 tours and sold 25 houses, they're closing 50% of the people they see. So the scoreboard is massive, not to just say, how you doing? Are you having a good year? Are you having a bad year? It can give you evaluation tools that go beyond just how many sales you've made. So it's important to understand the different layers of the scoreboard. Volume of real estate sold. How many tours have you taken? I would even say it's probably prudent to keep a scoreboard for how many outbound phone calls you're making. This goes back to what we said. And if you could look at your business at the end of the year and you said, I made 5,000 outbound phone calls, I gave 150 tours, and I sold 40 properties. You're going to know your conversion ratio on each of these, and that way you can begin to measure and keep score on all of these different aspects. Okay, so scoreboard is essential for understanding the reality of where we are. It's also essential to evaluating a lot of different information rather than just the sales. For that reason, the scoreboard is essential in decision making, right? We know that if it's the the score of the game, if it's like 60 to 35 on a basketball game, right? The coach probably needs to call a timeout because, they've lost something there. So the scoreboard is essential to help us making decisions. So we take the reality, we take the evaluation, and then we begin to make decisions about it. The scoreboard is the thing that causes us to make decisions, right? Not only in the game, but also after the game as well. Once we look back and evaluate the score, evaluate the game, it helps us make decisions for the next game. We said this a number of months ago in a call is, I don't know how many of you do post-tour recaps or kind of like going back and evaluating how things went. That's a great way to assess, take score essentially of what happened in this tour and how we're going to change and make decisions on moving forward with not only that client but other clients as well. The fourth thing about the scoreboard that Maxwell says is that it is an essential part of making adjustments. This is the key for us today. We're starting June 1st, and I would say there's not a salesperson on this call or watching this replay that doesn't need to make some adjustments in their game plan. The scoreboard is what allows you to do that. You can look up and find out where things are. And as long as there's time on the clock, you can always make an adjustment. As long as there's time on the clock, you can always make an adjustment. And so I would encourage you all to use what you discover when you look at the scoreboard in order to make adjustments. Here's the inherent problem with scoreboards. People are afraid of scoreboards. It's especially true in the real estate environment or sales environment. Not so much in baseball games or stuff like that because it's like you just know it's there. But in the sales world, I think people are terrified of the scoreboard because it is used as a mechanism for shame and guilt and failure. And if you're having a tough year or a tough month, you look up and you go, oh, John sold 10, I've sold 1. I'm no good. I might as well quit now. Why do I even try? My life is terrible. What am I doing wrong? Oh, woe is me. Blah, 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 blah. I hope I'm not talking about anybody who's listening to me, but I know for a fact that the chances are that that's how we think. The scoreboard then becomes this thing in our life that we are afraid of, so we never look at it. Well, it's just easier not to look at it because I'm having a bad year anyway. That is simply immature, childish behavior, and you are never going to be successful if that's the way you live. And I'm just being flat out. I'm just being honest with you. You have to be mature enough to look at the scoreboard and go, whew, okay, I'm off. How do I need to adjust? That is a characteristic of someone who wins at life. Not just about what the score is and how successful they are. That's the heart issue. That's the heart issue. I guarantee you somebody with heart looks at the scoreboard at the halfway point and goes, guys, we're trailing by 10. That means we've got to do this, 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 or this in the second half. Or, hey, guys, there's 2 minutes left in the game. We're down 4. We got this. I mean, that's the kind of conversation, self-talk that winners have. So it's not just about the scoreboard and adjusting. It's about how you view the scoreboard and are willing to adjust to it. If you view the scoreboard as this ominous thing in the cloud that's going to strike you down because you've not sold anything, then you have got the wrong mindset and the wrong heart set and approach to your life and your career, and you will not succeed with that kind of mindset. And so you have to be willing to adjust. That means you have to have the maturity of being teachable, the maturity of being willing to learn, the maturity of being willing to grow. If you don't have those things, you'll never mature, you'll never win, you'll never grow. You'll be stuck in this constant cycle of negative self-talk and woe is me, and I'm afraid of the scoreboard, and so-and-so's just doing better, and blah, blah, blah. So the scoreboard is essential to adjusting, and we have to be willing to adjust according to it. And lastly, he said the scoreboard is essential to winning. The scoreboard is what tells us the final score of the game, what tells us the outcome, and what tells us if we won or if we lost. Now, if we lost, doesn't mean we're a loser. It means that we did not achieve the goal we set out to achieve. If you go back to the very beginning, we've got to have a big team goal. That's the Mount Everest size goal. That is the annual sales goal for all of these communities. And so right now, you're at an incredible point in the life of the community this year. It's June 1st. You've got time to assess, to get back to basics, to recalibrate your compass. You got 30 days to be coming out of the gate running in July and finish the year strong so that you can get to the end of the year and said, we accomplished the goal, we won. And then there needs to be big celebration on the back end of those who do have victory and get the victory that they set out to get. So law of the scoreboard, the 11th law from Maxwell, and it's very powerful. Oh, one more thing I want to mention. The scoreboard is not only essential to the internal operations of communities, it's also something you can use on the external. How many people are moving to Huntsville? How many houses are selling? What's the average sales price? These are scoreboard type things that are going to help you gauge the external environment of these communities that you're in. Regardless, so the scoreboard is about internal operations, but you have to have an outside, external operation of the scoreboard as well, so you can understand what's going on in the game around you. That's why it's important to shop the competition. That's why it's important to understand the market demographics. That's why it's important to understand where your community plays into this and have a greater picture of the bigger game, not just in your community, but in the outer community as well. So the scoreboard is essential for you guys' success. You can't run from it. You can't be afraid of it. However, it's not the only measure. The heart matters as well. That's my little caveat. But I hope you guys take this and go crush it with the law of the scoreboard. Have a great day.